The Metro, a short story by Josef Essberger. The discovery of a body in the Paris metro early one morning was not particularly unusual. That is what had led sent a friction through the sixth arrondissement, but the indecent went unnoticed outside Paris. Yet there was clearly something strange about the case. It was hardly as though the body had been decapitated to frustrate in identifications, for it was fully clothed, and none of the owner's personal effects had been removed, save of course for his head. The Paris police soon tied up the contents of the dead man's wallet with forensic evidence from the body. Added to that, Madame Charente, the dead man's wife, could positively identify the body in the most intimate ways. She had already reported her husband as missing. A few men were dispatched to poke around in the warm, dark tunnels on either side of Odeon Station, where the body had been found. Above ground, another search was made, equally fruitlessly, and the inspector Datturel, it looks as though the case would linger on unsolved. 2 weeks later, 4 kilometers away in the west, a headless body was found at Corsairs Station, again in the tunnel not far from the platform. As is the earlier case, the cause of death was apparently the severing of the head, which appeared to have been done with some precision. Again, the body was fully clothed and easily identified, and nothing but the head had apparently been removed. What can I tell these press reporters? Inspector Datturel said as he handed his wife the 2 sticks of bread he usually bought on the way home. They want answer for everything, and it's not just the papers now. The politicians are getting worried too. I'm reporting to the prefect on this one. If there were instant answer for everything, one petition, they have no need of you, said Madame Datturel. And where would they be without you? Who cleaned up the terrible Crichet case last year, and the acid bath at Rorery Diderot? The little inspector divisionnaire chef, who in his stomach puffed out his chest and rose to his full height, a smile spread across his round face. In his smart dark suit and gold-rimmed glasses, you could have taken him for a provincial bank manager rather than one of Paris' most successful policemen. Just think, he said wryly. They were actually about to close the file on Dr. Gomes before I took charge of the investigation. The fools, all of them. All the same, my dear, I know where to go on this one. There's no leads, there's no apparent motive, and it's bizarre pattern. Assuming, of course, it is a pattern, we can't be sure of that until there's been another. Inspector Datturel did not have long to wait for his pattern to emerge. A telephone call at 5:30 the next morning dragged him from his bed. "It's another one, sir," said the voice at the other end. "Another what?" "It's identical, another headless corpse, just like the others, male, middle-aged, white." "Where?" asked Inspector Datturel, fumbling for a cigarette. "Shadow Road." "In the metro?" "Yes, sir, just inside the tunnel, in the anti-suicide well between the tracks." "Cross the line. If you haven't already, I'll be with you soon, and then move it. You hear?" Inspector Datturel replaced the receiver with a sigh as his wife padded into the room. "I hate these early morning cases," he muttered. He lit his cigarette. "Have a coffee before you go. Another dead body will keep." "But we've crossed the line." And it's the other side of town, my dear, North Paris. All the same. He sat down heavily and watched his wife solemnly as she made the coffee. Madame de Tourelle was a simple woman of 46 whose long, thin-lipped face was framed by stern gray hair. Her strong, practical hands were country hands, and she had never got used to city life. She lived for the day when she and her husband would retire to their home village in Les Pyrenees. Inspector Datorel sighed to himself again. Poor Ernest. She tried so hard to please him. How could she know that he longed to be free of her? How could she possibly know of Valolona, the young Malagasy he had met while on the creature case? For him it had been love at first sight. And for me too, my darling. Valolona had been quick to agree, her large brown eyes welling with tears as they gazed at him through the smoke of the Château et Lapinte where she worked. A veritable Coupe de Faude. She spoke French well, with a Malagasy accent and huskiness that left you with a sense of mystery and promise. Inspector Dutour was a happy man, but he was careful to tell no one except Monsieur Cherbourg, his closest friend, about the source of his happiness. I've never felt like this before, Pierce. I'm captivated by her, he said one evening when he took Monsieur Cherbourg to see Valolona dancing. It was a rare experience, even for the jaded Monsieur Cherbourg. In the frantic color spotlights of the Château et Lapine, Valolona danced solo, and in her vitality you sensed the wildness of Madagascar. Her black limbs lashed the air to the music, which was raw and sensual. You know, Pierce, in the 30 years of marriage, I was never unfaithful. Well, you know that already. That was always my work, and the children, and I was happy enough at home. It never occurred to me to look at another woman, but something happened when I met Valolona. She showed me how to live. She showed me what real ecstasy is. Look at her period. Isn't she the most exquisite thing you ever saw? And she adores me. She's crazy about me. But why, I ask you? What can she see in me? 3 times her age, pot belly, bald, married. Inspector Dutrelli leaned back in his chair and swung around to look at the other customer approaching Valolona from the shadows. He smiled proudly to himself. He knew exactly what was on their minds. Life was strange, he thought, and you could never tell. Some of them were young men, tall and handsome and wiry, yet none of them knew Valolona as he knew her. Monsieur Cherbourg finished his whiskey. I can see, he said, that a man in your position might have certain attractions for an immigrant without paperwork in one of the more dangerous quarters of Paris. Monsieur Cherbourg was a lawyer. You're a cynic, Pierre. And after 30 years in the force, you're not. Personally, I believe her when she says she loves me. I just don't know why. Another whiskey? Well, one thing's for sure, Regis. It can't go on like that. One way or another, things will come to a head. But I must agree, she is exquisite all right. Like an exquisite Venus trap. And at the germane moment, you know, those soft succulent petals will close around you like a vise. The normally precise inspector was piqued by his friend's unreasonable attitude. How can you say that? He snapped. When you haven't even spoke to her. But all women are the same, Regis. Don't you know that? You should be a lawyer, then you know it. They can't help it. They're built that way. Believe me, it can't go on without something happening. Inspector Datterley groveled at his old school friend and said nothing. Monsieur Shabu could see he had touched a raw nerve. He grinned amicably and leaned across to slap his friend playfully on the shoulder. Look, Regis, all I'm saying is be careful, you haven't got my experience. Of course, that was true. When it came to women, few men had Monsieur Shabu's experience, or his luck, for that matter. He was one of those people who go through life insulated from difficulty. He crossed roads without looking. He did not hurry for trains. He never reconciled bank accounts. Tall, slim, with boyish good looks and thick, black wavy hair, he was the antithesis of Inspector Daturi. Look, you've got two women involved with this, Monsieur Shabu continued. And women aren't like us. Agnes isn't stupid. She must know something's going on. She hasn't said anything, said the inspector brusquely. He lit another Gauloise. Of course she hasn't. She's cleverer than you are. She intends to keep you. Mind you, said Inspector Daturel grudgingly. She has had some odd dreams recently, so she says, about me and another woman. But anyway, she just laughs and says she can't believe it. But Regis, you must know that what we say and what we think are seldom the same. Sometimes I wonder if I ought to tell her something, if only out of decency. Monsieur Shabu nearly choked on the fresh whiskey he had just put to his lips. No, he cried with a passion that surprised the inspector. Therefore, you must never tell her, equally just. Even if she did mention it, you must deny everything. Even she caught the two of you in the act, you must deny it. You can only tell a woman there's another when you've definitely made up your mind to leave her, and even then it may not be safe. So much for logic. It's no use looking for logics in women legits. I told you, they're not like men. In fact, I've come to the conclusion that they're not even the same species as men. Men and women are like dog and bitch. They're more like dog and cats. Says Bessenon. In any case, I do know you can't keep two women on the go without something happening. I don't know what, but something. Now the European press had picked the story up, and the little inspector did not know how to deal with the international reporters who hung around like flies outside the old stone walls of the Prefecture de Police. Their stories focused on a bizarre nature of the killings, and the idea that there were three self-hits somewhere in Paris particularly excited them. They wanted constantly to know more. So of course, this inspector dutifully, I assure you, gentlemen, he told a press conference, we are at least as anxious as you to recover the missing parts. We are doing everything possible. You can tell your reader that wherever they are, we find them. Can we have photographs of the victims for our readers? Asked one of the foreign reporters. So, as we know which hits we're looking for, added a journalist from London. It was a joke that was not shared by the people of Paris. Suddenly, the normally carnival atmosphere of the metro and evaporated. Buskers no longer worked the coach between stations. Puppeteers and jugglers no longer entertained passengers with impromptu performances. Even the beggars, who habitually hung around the crowded stations or made impression speeches in the carriages, had gone. And the few passengers who remained sat more long-faced than ever or walked more hastily down the long corridors between platforms. Inspector Dutterly, despair of even clearing the case up, his mind already excited over Vololuna, was now in a turmoil. Vololuna had suddenly and tearfully announced that she was pregnant. Then, having accepted his financial assistance to terminate the pregnancy, but refusing his offer to take her to the clinic, she told him one day on the telephone, I thought you were going to ask me to marry you. Inspector Dantule was stunned. But you know I'm married, Marjorie, he said. I thought you lived Agnes. She replied, I wanted to be with you. I wanted to share everything with you. My child, my life, my bed. Inspector Dantule could hear her sobbing. But darling, we can still see each other. No, it's too painful. I love you too much. Inspector Dantule could not concentrate on his work at all. Day and night, his thoughts were on Vololona. He longed to be with her. If only Agnes would leave him, and if only Volona would be satisfied with what he gave her already. The dinners, the peasants' department. Why did women have to possess you? It seemed that the more you gave them, the more they took, until there was nothing left to give but yourself. Perhaps Pierre was right after all, when you thought about it. The investigation into the metro murders was proceeding this morning. Inspector Dantule had no suspect, no leads, no motive. His superiors complained about his lack of progress, and the press ridiculed him without pity. It appears, commented Fraser, that's the only thing Inspector Dantule can tell us with certainty is that with each fresh atrocity, the metro station name grows longer. The detective under him could not understand what had happened to their normally astute inspector, and they felt leaderless and demoralized. It was left to the security police of the metro to point out one rather obvious fact, that the three stations where bodies had been found had one thing in common. Their lines inspectors at Metro Bath, Roger showered, and it seemed that something might be learned by taking the metro between them. Inspector Dantule did not like public transport, and he especially did not like the metro. It was cramped, smelly, and claustrophobic at the best of times, and in the summer it was hot. You stood on the very edge of the platform just to feel the breeze, and the blue and white trains pulled into the station. It was years since the inspector had used the metro. I can take much more of this, Mark, he said to the young detective constable who was traveling with him. It's too hot. We'll get off at the next stop. That's Bob's Lochato answered. We can check that. No, Mark, we can't get out there. Someone else can take our sauna. I've had enough. Anyway, we need to have a look around. Inspector Dantule wiped his brow. He sounded irritable. God knows what it's like normally, he added. When the train pulled in, they took the exit from Boulevard de Rocher to Art. At least we can get through now, said the detective constable as they walked up the passage towards the escalator. How do you mean? Asked Inspector Dantule. Well, normally the station's packed. Bakers, passengers, buskers, hawkers, plus all their tables and stalls. It's like a damn great fair and market rolled into one. You can get anything here from Eiffel Towers to cabbages and potatoes, not to mention a spas of cabinets or heroin. Oh, yes, said Inspector Dantule vaguely. I remember. He passed a handkerchief across his brow again. At the turnstiles, a man was handing out publicity cards, and he thrust one into Inspector Dantule's hand. Glancing down at it and squinting in the bright sunlight, the inspector read aloud. Professor Dicombe, Grand Medium Wongant, can help you succeed rapidly in all areas of life. He broke up in mid-sentence with a snort. What a lot of mumbo-jumbo, headless chickens, and voodoo magic. It may be mumbo-jumbo to you, sirs, said the detective constable with a laugh. But round here, they take that sort of thing seriously. And not only round here after all. We use some of these techniques in the police, don't we? Oh, really? Such as? Well, graphology for a start. You can hardly call besting a murder case on the size of someone's handwritten scientific, can you, sir? Or what about astrology, employing people on the basis of the stars? Or numerology, Yes, ma'am, said Inspector Dutour, pushing the card into his top pocket. Maybe you're right, and maybe you're older, you won't be so sure. Now get on the blower and call the car. The hot jury turned to hotter and more humid August. No more bodies were found in the sweltering tunnels of the metro, and the media, bored with the lack of developments, left Inspector Dutour to his original obscurity. Paris deserted by its citizens in the yearly exodus to the coast was turned only to the tourists with backpacks who flocked to the cheap hotels and began again to crowd the metro. Then, in September, the Parisians came back and life returned to normal. But Inspector Dutour's passions for Vololona did not cool with the season. Vololona had at last agreed to see him occasionally, but she always managed, with tears in her eyes, to deflect his more amorous advances. For Inspector Dutour, it was beneath him to observe that he continued to pay the rent on her apartment. But he was growing increasingly frustrated. The notion that she had another lover obsessed him, and in the evening he took proudly the broad boulevard de Clichy between her apartment and the Charles Elbit. Sometimes he would stand for hours watching her door, as local strollers passed with their dogs, or sat on the benches under the plane trees. Now denied the one thing here he wanted. The sense filled him with dismay. Money and music were in the air. Lovers sipped coffee in the open and watched the hosts in their doorways. Pigeons fluttered as girls in tight miniskirts hurried to work. Tourists with their Deutschmarks arrived by the busload, and the tours in dark glasses worked hard to coax them into the expensive sex show on neon-lit video clubs. Somewhere deep below ran the metro, but Inspector Dutour had no more interest in that. His superior had given up hope of solving the metro murders and had moved him on to other things. Sometimes he would stay all night, listening to the tinkle of broken glass as workmen swept up after the night's revelries. Occasionally, he would see Vololona leave her apartment to buy cigarettes, but he never once saw her on the arm of another man, or saw Bill still take the lift to the 7th floor. One night, late in October, he returned from the Boulevard de Clichy just after midnight. Madame Dutour, having been told that her husband was working on a case, and perhaps believing it, was already asleep. Had she been awake, she would surely have been surprised to see him throw his jacket over a chair. For Inspector Dutour had always been meticulous with his clothes, the sort of man who irons his shoelaces. But the jacket missed and dropped to the floor. Muttering to himself, the inspector bent and picked it up, and as he did so, something fell from the top pocket. He gazed at it blankly for a moment. Then he realized it was the card he had been given at the metro station, a little the worse for having been once or twice to the cleaners, but still legible. He picked it up and slowly started to read. Professor Digobre, Grand Media Moyons can help you succeed rapidly in all areas of life, luck, love, marriage, attractions of clients, examination, sexual potency. If you desire to make another love you, or if your loved one has left with another, this is his domain. You will be loved and your partner will return. Professor Digobre will come behind you like a dog. He will create between you a perfect rapport on the basis of love, or problems resolved, even desperate cases. Every day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Payments after results. 13B Rue Bardem, 75018, Paris, staircase B, 6th floor, door on left, metro above, Rochelle. Inspector Dutton stood in his socks and braces, reading the cards over and over again. All problem resolved. It was preposterous, and yet it was tempting. What harm could there be in little hocus pocus when everything else had failed? After all, everyone knew that even the Polish used clairvoyance when they were rearing up against it. Rue Bernard was a back street of tenement buildings in Paris 18th around this match, and a real popular with immigrants from Francophone Africa. It lay close to the busy crossroads straddled by Metro Bob Rochelle. Inspector Dutouré parked in the next street and walked the rest of the way, crossing because he had not brought his umbrella. The door to number 13B was swinging in the wind, its dark paint peeling badly. He stepped through into a narrow courtyard and found his way to the sixth floor, door on which a brass plaque read, Professor Dicomly, Specialties the Travels Calculus, please read. He stood there, breathing heavily from the stairs, and before he could press the bell, the door opened, and a man appeared. "Please enter, my dear sir," said the man with an arrogant wave of the hand and exaggerated courtesy. "I am Dicomly, and I have the honor to meet." As Inspector Dutouré had imagined, Professor Dicomly was black. He had a short yet commanding figure, and was dressed in a well-tailored gray suit. A large silk handkerchief fell from his top pocket. "For the moment," said Inspector Dutouré, "my name is hardly important. I've only come to respond to your advertisement. Monsieur has perhaps some small problem with which I can help? A minor indiscretion? Please be seated, sir. Let us talk about the matter." Inspector Dutouré handed his coat and gloves to the professor and sat in the large, well-upholstered chair to which he had been directed. Professor Dicomly himself seated behind a large mahogany desk, on top of which a chihuahua hardly bigger than a mouse was lounging, its wide, moist eyes gazing disdainfully at the newcomer. "Ah, I see that Sears approves of you," said the professor, stroking the tiny dog, the tip of his manicured fingers. His own unblinking eye also fixed on Inspector Dutouré. "Poor Sears, one pity Papillon. He is devoted to me, but he must remain here wherever I leave France. And you are fortunate, monsieur. It is only now that I return from Côte d'Ivoire. This is my country, you know. I return there for a few months each summer. Paris in summer is so disagreeable. Don't you agree?" Professor Dicomly greeted with success. The frame of his glasses, the heavy bracelets on his right wrist, and the watch on his left, the gem-stud rings on his fingers, all were of gold. From his manner and cultured French accent, it was evident that he was an educated man. Around him, the large room was like a shrine. Heavy curtains excluded the daylight. The only illuminations were a small brass desk lamp, and the dark red walls were festooned with spears, costumes, photographs, and other African memorabilia. There was a sweet smell in the air, and in one corner of the room, the feathers of a ceremonial African headgear lay draped inappropriately over an enormous American refrigerator. You could not help to be struck by the incongruity of this bizarre scene in the roughest quarter of Paris. "As I said," began Inspector Dutouré, ignoring the professor's questions, "I saw your card and I wonder just how you work. And may one inquire at the monsieur's little difficult?" Inspector Dutouré glared his throat and tried to adopt as nonchalant an air as he could. Well, he coughed again. First of all, I wonder what sorts of things you can help people with. The professor's eyebrow rose. Anything, he said slowly, his smile revealing a set of large white teeth that shone brilliantly in the dampness against his black skin. My dear sir, anything at all. And then I wonder, how do you operate? That's to say, what exactly do you do, and how do you charge? Monsieur, let us not talk of money. First, I must learn just how I can help you. And for that, a consultation is in order. Inspector Dutulel shifted in his seat. And what would a consultation involve? What does it cost? Professor Dicroby wrung his hands and shrugged amicably. Monsieur, I do understand how distasteful it is to you to discuss so vulgar a matter as money. I too recoiled at the mere thought of it. It has been my mission in life to help those who have suffered misfortune. And if some donate a small tokens of their gratitude, who am I to refuse their offering? They pay according to their means to assist those who have little to offer. But for a preliminary consolations, Monsieurs, a nominal sum as a mark of good faith is usually in order for a gentleman of your obvious standing. A trifle, a mere 200 francs. And let me assure you, Monsieur, of my absolute discretion. Nothing you may choose to tell me will go beyond these walls. He paused. Then he drew out his hands and added with a grin, They have the sanctity of the confession. I'm glad to hear it, said the inspector. But Monsieur still has the advantage of me, continued Professor Dicroby. Inspector Dutulel decided that he had nothing to lose by talking. He adopted the name of Monsieur Monsadier, a Parisian wine merchant, and began to tell the professor of the dilemma that was touring at his soul. He told him of the young Malagasy girl he had met while entertaining clients, of their incensed and passionate love for one another, of her sudden irrational refusal any longer to give herself to him, and of the wife he now knew he should never have married, but whom he had not the heart to leave. Monsieur Monsadier was at his wits' end, and now even his business was suffering. He feared that if he did not find a resolution to his problem, he might do something that he or others would regret. The professor listened intently, asking appropriate questions at appropriate moments. Finally, the Inspector Dutulel said, Well, Professor Dicroby, I think that's all I can tell you. I don't think I can tell you any more from what I have told you. Do you believe you can help me? For a long time, there was silence. The professor appeared to be in another world. He stared at Inspector Dutulel, but seemed to be looking through him. My dear Monsieur Monsadier, he said at last, very slowly, almost mechanically, the story you have told me is most poignant. Each of us had a hidden corner in his life, a jardin secret. Yet it is rare indeed for men to come to me with problems such as yours. Perhaps it is natural that most of my love-lorn clients should be women, at the mercy of their complex physical structure. Is it any wonder that women are such emotional creatures? I help them find their lost ones, the partners of many years, to recreate again the rapports of their youth. You will understand that it is not easy, but it is my work, my domain. So you can help me? Said Inspector Duttrell, adding despondently. Perhaps what I really need is head shrink. The professor gave a start again. For a long time he did not answer. Then his teeth flashed in the dimness. It costs, monsieur. This is my work, my domain, he repeated. Certainly I can help you, but you must understand that it will not be easy. It calls for a special ceremony. In the first place, you are married, and I shall be required to work my influence on not one, but two women. In the second, we are both men of the world, monsieur, and you will not be offended if I remark upon the extreme disparity in your ages. And finally, it is clear to me that this young girl has changed your heart with her magic. You know, the magic of Madagascar is very strong. No, monsieur, it will not be easy. Enduring love cannot be bought with money alone. Sometimes. He hesitated and looked Inspector Duttrell straight in the eyes. His own eyes suddenly cold and vacant. Sometimes, he said, we must make sacrifice. What sort of sacrifice? Asked Inspector Duttrell dully. Oh, my dear sir, you must leave that to me. But one cannot make an omelette without breaking eggs. His cold eyes remained fixed on the inspector, and he spoke in a monotone without pausing for breath. You must not concern yourself with technicalities, monsieur. Your mind must be fixed on the future, on the life you have dreamed of. You must envisage your wife, happy in the arms of another. You must picture the fragile child you so yearned for, secure in your arms, sharing your life, your days, your nights, the perfect solution to all your problems. Is it not worth a considerable sum? It certainly would be worth a lot. Inspector Duttrell muttered as the professor's words came to life in his mind. Shall we say 30,000 francs? I'm sorry? Muttered the inspector. Let's say 15,000 before and 15 afterwards. The professor went on as though his visitor had not spoken. Do you see, monsieur, how confident I am of success? Inspector Duttrell did not reply. He was confused. He had not expected the professor to be so blunt or to purpose quite so generous a token, but it did not seem to matter. After all, what were 30,000 francs to achieve what he craved so desperately? And in any case, at worst, it was only 15,000. The professor's eyes were still fixed on Inspector Duttrell. Of course, monsieur, I have faith in your gratitude. I know that you will not forget, in your delight, that what I have done, I can't undo. And now, monsieur, you must not allow me to detain you further. We have much work to do. In 8 days, you will return with photographs and details of Madame Monsieur and the magazine, and with some little articles of clothing, something close to their thoughts. Say a scarf or a hat. You can arrange this? Inspector Duttrell nodded blankly. Excellent, monsieur. I must know them in every detail. If I am to have spiritual tete-a-tete with each of them. So, in 15 days, you will return for the ceremony. It will take place beyond those curtains, in the space reserved for the ancestral spirits. Nobody but I and my assistants may enter there. But nevertheless, it is imperative that you be present on the day. It must be at dawn, and you must come without fail. The ceremony cannot be deferred. Can you manage 6 in the morning? Shall we say Monday the 16th? Inspector Dutterell did not sleep well on the night of 15th of December. At 4 o'clock in the morning, he got out of bed. Though his wife stirred, she did not wake. He showered and dressed. His nerves were on edge as he fiddled around in the kitchen, boiling water for his coffee. He drank 2 cups, strong and black, but he looked helplessly at the croissants he had spread clumsily with jam. He lit a gallows and paced the room. Then he pulled the windows open and leaned on the railing, finishing his cigarette. Below him, the courtyard was dark and silent, and above him the sky was black. But away in the east, through the open end of the court, a violet hue was creeping over Paris. He glanced at his watch. It was 5:15 and time to fetch the car. It would seem strange living at that time of the morning without an official car and driver. He wondered what the concierge would make of it all. She was bound to be polishing the brushes by the time he reached the ground floor. He gave a shiver and pushed the windows shut. Then he put the keys of the railroad in his coat pocket and checked that he had everything. He looked into the bedroom. Gently, he drew the duvet back and looked at his wife as she slept. Her arms clasped about her knees. He leaned over and touched his lips to her cheek. Then he closed the bedroom door silently behind him, switched the lights off in the living room and kitchen, and opened the front door. As he did so, the telephone rang. It startled him and cursed aloud. He closed the front door again and hurried to answer the phone so that his wife should not wake. "Inspector Dutterell?" said a voice at the other end. "Yes, what is it?" "Sorry to disturb you at this time of the morning, Monsieur Inspector. It's the prefecture." "Never mind the time," said Inspector Dutterell with as much irritation as his whispering voice could convey. "I'm off duty today." "Well, that's the point, Inspector. The prefect ordered us to call you specially. He appreciates you not on duty, but he wants you anyway. It's quite impossible." "I'm afraid he insists, sir." "Why?" "He insists you come on duty immediately, sir. We're sending a car round for you." Yes, I understand. But why?" "It's the metro again, sir." "The metro?" "Yes, sir. They found another corpse on the line, decapitated again." Inspector Dutterell did not reply. He was cursing to himself. He was cursing the prefect, the police, this homicidal maniac, his wife. Why today? Why ever today? "Sir? Hello, sir? The car will be with you in 5 minutes." "Yes, all right. I'll be there in 5 minutes." The big black Citroens were soon speeding away from Rue d'Arfent and heading north across Pont-Neuf. Inspector Dutterell looked at the wintry mist rising from the scene. His dreams, it seemed, were evaporation just as surely. "You better brief me on this as quick as you can," he said, bellowing to the detective sergeants he had found waiting for him in the car. "Where was the body found?" Both Roger out, sir. "A cold shiver passed through the inspector. I presume it's the same as the others?" he asked. "Well, inasmuch as there's nothing to go on, it's the same, sir. Otherwise it couldn't be more different. For a start, we've just heard they found 2 of them now, and this time they're women, one white, in her 40s, and one black. A young black girl still in her teens by the look of things." But Inspector Dutterell was not listening. He was staring blankly through the grass to his right, and as they turned and pressed the chariot, the empty streets were no more than a cold, grey blur to him. The car swung onto the broad boulevard. the Sabatoport and accelerated northwards to cover the 3 kilometers to Metro Bus Rochester Art. It was the route he should have been taking in his own car. Outside the station, now closed to passengers. People were standing around under the street lights with their collars up. Inspector Dutterell got out of the car. He hesitated. He glanced toward road bedammed, just a stone's throw away across the Blake Boulevard, the Rochester Art, where the professor would be waiting for him. He turned and went down the station steps. Underground, on the number 4 line, there was an air of gloom. Both bodies lay where they had been spotted by the train drivers through the morning. Inspector Dutterell looked impassively at the first one. It was the body of a middle-aged woman, quite unexceptional, coarse and wiry, like his wife. "She's 47, Monsieur Inspector," said somebody beside him. "French name of Madame Catherine Double, not like the other one." "The other one?" said the inspector blankly. "I told you in the car, sir," said the detective sergeant at his ear. "There's 2 of them. You better show me." They strolled in their overcoats to the other end of the platform and went down the little steps that led to the track. A uniformed policeman pulled back the blanket that covered the second body, which lay on its back. Inspector Dutterell stared dispassionately at the stiff, black limbs that stuck on awkwardly across the railway lines. Suddenly, he shuddered in alarm. Even in the dim lights of the train that was pulled up beyond, you could see the resemblance to Wololona. "Identity?" he asked. He tried to control his voice. "We don't know, sir. This is all we found," said a policeman, handing him a tattered greetings card. Inside, in large green handwritten, were the words, "Happy 19th birthday from everyone in Antananarivo." "Do you think she's Malagasy, sir?" asked the policeman. The inspector shrugged his shoulders, then held out an open hand. "Your torch, please," he said. He placed its beam over the body, up and down the long, slender legs, across the clothes. At least he did not recognize the clothes. Yet the body's size, its build, its color, everything pointed to Wololona. He bent down and flashed the light onto the fingers of the left hand and laughed weakly to himself as he saw the tawdry rings that glinted back at him. He stood up in relief. That was certainly not Wololona, yet it was uncanny how this body reminded him of her. And the other of Annette, for that matter, even the ages were the same. And the other of Annette, for the matter, even the ages were the same. He smoked as he stood staring at the headless corpse. He could not understand. Was the magic of Madagascar really so strong that now he saw Wololona everywhere? And was all Annette's? How would Professor Dickerby explain that? How could he explain it? When you came to think of it, he had explained every little. He had been happy enough to take the money, and free enough with his words. Other grandiose notions of emissions and sacrifice and spiritual artities. Inspector Dutterell gasped. "The devil," he muttered to himself. Suddenly he understood everything. "The what, sir?" said somebody beside him. "Never mind," he answered quietly, putting his hand to his breast pocket. His heart had started to pound with a sense of dangers, and his head suddenly ached with questions. He took out his cigarette case and lit another gallows. Through its curling blue smoke, backlit by the lights of the train, the black limbs were spread out in a grotesque dance, while beside him men's voices were thrumming in his ear. Why was there no time to think, to extricate himself from this nightmare? He cursed himself. How could he have been so stupid? He cursed his wife and Vololona and Professor Dickerbeat. What madness driven him to this? Then he cursed himself again and turned abruptly to one of the men babbling at his side. What time is it? 6:15, sir. For a moment he hesitated. Then he called for the detective sergeant who was with the photographer at the other body. Eagerly guy, when he's got his pictures, they can move the bodies and fix things up, he said. Now get me the prefect. The prefect was beside himself with rage at this further disturbance to his sleep, and he exploded with indignation when the inspector naturally offered his resignation. Are you insane, man? You're in the middle of an investigation. The investigation is over. Monsieur le Prophète. So you have the killer at last. In 15 minutes, Monsieur, in 15 minutes. Then, why in the name of God are you asking to be relieved from duty? Monsieur le Prophète, my position is impossible. On this occasion, it was I that paid the killer, he answered clumsily as he took another cigarette from this silver cigarette case.